football fans, thanks for being with us. It is the Yahoo NFL Sunday look ahead. I don't know. I call it something different every time that we do this show, but the fact of the matter is Yahoo is the important thing. Football is the next most important thing. You bring those two together, it's Yahoo Fantasy Football, and you've come to the right place for the next hour. That's what we're going to be screwing around talking about, all the key injuries going position by position, who makes the most sense for you. So thank you for finding us. Load up the YouTube chat with your questions. Get them out on Twitter, wherever you see fit. We'll go looking for them. And of course, you can be part of this show. I am Adam Kaufman, joined by someone who's going to talk that much more because what he has to say is actually important. I'm just kind of guiding the ship. He is providing you the information. That is my good friend, Eric Lindquist. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm now I can't stop thinking about season-long hockey for whatever reason. We were talking a little bit before the show. You had a trade offer that we had to contemplate a little bit, little different philosophies that we have, I guess, for the year-long streets. But it's still fun to just have all of these sports in action. We have MLB, obviously all the championship series kick off today, and then great game last night. We've got NBA coming up next week. We've got PGA that's still going on. We've got NFL, obviously, for this weekend. It never stops. It's great, but I'm excited to be here with you talking the main sport that everybody cares about, and that is the NFL.
I was going to say, the little street you were leading me down there, should we be talking about everything other than football today with everything happening in the world? I don't think that would make our sponsor happy. Probably wouldn't make the bosses happy, but damn it, there is a lot happening in the world, isn't there?
Yeah, this is a pretty slow day, though, compared to what we've had in recent days, I would suppose. We've been very, very spoiled, but at least there's a massive baseball game on that can kind of take a little bit of it. College football tomorrow. I mean, it never stops, but it is a beautiful thing. And that's also, again, why you need to be at Awesemo Plus, because we got somebody who can cover a little bit of everything.
Man, we haven't even talked about my kids' soccer games this weekend.
Oh my God, what's the line?
We'll get to that a little bit later on. All right, we're going to get into football here in a matter of moments. First, let me tell you about our presenting sponsor, Yahoo, our good friends at Yahoo, who help make this show possible and so many others as well that I happen to be fortunate to be part of. And a lot of information, like I said, is coming your way. But first, let's break it down. Of course, we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you some great offers, all of which you can find in the links in the description of this video. First, we have an exclusive limited time offer, gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. That is a very important detail here. You have to be new to Yahoo and sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. It's just that simple. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest. We'll reach out to you via email with your coupon. If you need immediate access because you want to play today, simply email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you all set up. Again, just to emphasize, this offer is for new Yahoo users only. That is new Yahoo users only. You can also claim a free $10, which can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including our Awesemo special for NFL Week 6, awarding $10,000 a year, pardon me, not 10,000 a year, 10,000 and a year of Awesemo Plus Platinum to first place. There's less than 2,000 spots that are available to you. Hurry up, enter right now. Make sure you use our DFS tools that are available and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. Very good. Very good. A lot of information there. Thank you. It's what the people need to know. Greg's in the chats as the DVD collection's growing, Cough. Not aggressively. Sprinkle one in every once in a while as a treat to myself.
You go on the online streets and you just find I don't know. Is there a specific subset of that DVD collection that is just the most important to you?
Oh man, I mean, there's an entire Jean-Claude Van Damme section, which is very important to me. That's where it's. Yeah, I know. It's right up here. You see underneath the Griffey rookie card, that little section right there on up to the Bruins goalie. That's all Van Damme. All Van Damme all the time.
Adam, whole new light, pal. Whole new light.
I know. I need to get some more. I only have up through 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So I need to continue to add to the collection. But we're going to have ourselves Jean-Claude Van Damme good time right around here. Tell me, my friend, before we start going position by position, which injuries, which news that you're monitoring here midday on a Friday is, I don't know, making you the most apprehensive, is the most interesting to you heading into the weekend?
Well, we're going to start with the biggest one, period, and that is the injury to Nick Chubb. He has officially been ruled out for Week 6. This is a run-first football team. This is now Kareem Hunt. He automatically jumps to the top of the page. He's very cheap across the industry. There's really no ways around that. We're going to be playing a lot of Kareem Hunt come Sunday. I just don't see there being anybody that's even remotely close in terms of value at the position that we'd be looking at over on Yahoo. I mean, it's at least one of those spots where we have to think for a second at $19. Like, I think that there's prices that are even more advantageous on other sites than that, but there's no way around it. He's basically a $30 back, $35 back priced at $19 for a current role. I mean, there's no number two there. It is absolutely going to be Kareem Hunt for as much of the workload as he can handle. Generally been splitting 50-50, maybe been on the softer side of that 50-50 split with Nick Chubb here in recent weeks, but my God, there's no way around it. This is going to be the most talked about play of the next 2 days. And you just kind of play and have exposure to him in tournaments. You absolutely 100% lock him in every cash game format known to man, but finding ways to get different at the position now. I mean, he's going to concentrate so much rostership. So looking forward to that, Chalk.
We're looking for a lot of value in general at the running back position, right? And I know we'll get there. We got to do the quarterbacks first, but there's no Nick Chubb, as you said. There's no Christian McCaffrey. There's no Damian Williams. He's been ruled out there, among others. There's going to be a lot of value popping up here.
Well, not only that, but we have a ton of mid-tier running back value, and it exists on every site. Specifically on Yahoo, though, we've got Darrell Henderson, Jonathan Taylor, both of them $20, $23, DeAndre Swift at $20. Those are all three guys that are basically at 25% plus rostership here at the moment. And then one guy that I think I might just be in love with this week, and maybe I'm off my rocker, is Khalil Herbert going up against the Green Bay Packers. He's at $14. I mean, you want to talk about savings and just being able to jam in at every other position known to man. Khalil Herbert kind of does it for you. He had 18 rushing attempts in week 5, and that was with a healthy and active Damian Williams. I mean, we're looking at a guy who could just honestly carry the ball 20 plus times for $14. That's kind of unheard of. You've never had that kind of value on Yahoo.
Look, man, I went looking for him in my season-long leagues, and in all of them, he had been scooped up. And interestingly enough, he'd been scooped up even before the Damian Williams news came out. Like, he was scooped up after his, big game, like you just talked about a few days earlier. Mm-hmm. So as people are savvy, they're paying attention. I will tell you, we'll get to the running back position soon, but it will surprise no one that Herbert is one of the top value plays at that position. Not one of the chalky plays in terms of overall projected points, but value, absolutely. Let's start, though, with the quarterback position and the top, 7 spots in terms of projected points, all quarterbacks. There's no great shock there, but usually you see one stud running back, one stud receiver in that mix. It's QB. Part of it, of course, we got a 10-game main slate on Sunday now that we've entered bye weeks. Falcons, Saints, Jets, Niners, they are all off. Some good teams, Seahawks, the Bills, and then also the Steelers and Titans. They all have primetime games. As we know, we already had the game last night in which the Bucks played. So you don't have any of those weapons that are available to you. Jalen Hurts is typically a guy that we spend time talking about with regard to fantasy more so than real life. Obviously, he already went for the Eagles last night, so he's not available to you. So your top options, you got Lamar Jackson, who is, of course, coming off just a monster performance, huge comeback win for Baltimore. Won some folks out there a lot of money, no doubt about that. He is projected for about 28 points here on Yahoo. He is the most projected points of anybody on the slate, $33, which is actually, Eric, significantly cheaper than a couple of guys that are right behind him in the grand scheme of things. In fact, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, again, two guys we talk about all the time. They do it with their legs as much as their arms, not unlike Jackson. They are each $40, so $7 more expensive than Jackson comes in, tied for the most expensive on the slate, and 24 and 23 points respectively. So, I mean, is it really, for you, Lamar or bust? Are one of these other guys more attractive to you?
No, Lamar Jackson is just above and away at his current number there. His salary of $33 is just kind of wrong for the position that he's put in here. And he was phenomenal on Monday night. There's no way around it, but it isn't even necessarily that. It's the Chargers' inept ability to stop the run. And this is still the team that runs at the highest adjusted rush percentage, according to our advanced stats tool, in the entire league. They are number 1. And this Chargers team is giving up a crazy amount of yardage. Number 1 in the league right now, 157.6 rushing yards per game. They just got eviscerated for 230 yards on the ground by Nick Chubb and company, and Cleveland's going to do that to a lot of teams. But considering Baltimore, I mean, this is kind of set up to be Lamar Jackson showcasing the other facet of his game, and that's what he can do on the ground. I absolutely love Lamar Jackson at $33. And we saw last week, we had talked quite a bit, or 2 weeks ago it was, Josh Allen was somebody who we had projected for around 33% ownership. And then it dropped to around 19, 15%, even at a very, very poor price tag that we had for him there. So I don't expect for him to be somebody who ends up being in 33% of lineups or 34.3% like we have projected for right now. I think people are still going to want to try to find ways and routes to get to Mahomes, to get to Joe Burrow, to get to Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert on the other side of this game for sure. It's somebody that I have interest in, but Lamar Jackson at $33, you are playing him in every single cash game format. And in tournaments, it's hard for me to not stack him up a number of different ways. You can play him with Malcolm Brown, or I always say Malcolm Brown for whatever reason, Marquise Brown. You can play him with Mark Andrews, and then you just, play him solo. You can just play him naked. So Lamar Jackson, one of the more fun tournament quarterbacks to stack up every single week. But at this number, $33, yeah, he might be popular, but I don't really care.
Taking a look at the optimal lineup that is available to you. Obviously, if you have Awesemo Plus Platinum, you check out Fantasy Cruncher and plug in, obviously, the main slate and look at the Yahoo format. Lamar Jackson, unsurprisingly, is very chalky. He's projected to be owned in 34% of lineups. He's obviously in that optimal. He is among the more popular guys. Khalil Herbert, another guy that, obviously you mentioned earlier, and we'll get to the running backs, but just including him in the mix. I mean, those are the two guys, in addition to the Rams DST, just to give you a little preview. Those are the three really, really popular plays this weekend. I can't help but wonder, though, the Patrick Mahomes game, the Chiefs against Washington, is intriguing for a range of reasons. Mahomes, we know what he's capable of. We obviously know that Washington's defense is not nearly as good as everyone expected it to be coming into this year. It's been really disappointing. That organization in general has been disappointing, to say the very least. Now they're, wedging in this Sean Allen retirement this weekend just to, attempt to find some good PR. And, it's, you have to wonder if they're, I don't know if, if we're taking a little stroll down narrative street, if players, for that Washington team rally around that type of thing, if they're out to make a statement there at home. Heineke certainly is in a really good position from a fantasy standpoint. What is your view of that game as it relates to Mahomes and attempting to make an argument for why he might be a better play than Lamar Jackson, even though I know you don't believe it?
So I'm not sure the right way to answer that, because they're both fantastic plays in a vacuum. I'm going to go to the Top Stacks tool, which now we have Yahoo as a part of. It's free today. Check it out. You want to be taking advantage of anytime we have some of those free tools posted, especially when they give you this kind of information. So right now on the Top Stacks tool, if you're going to combine Lamar Jackson with anybody, you're basically looking at massive, massive negative leverage. We have negative 26.9%. It's a ridiculous number, but that just speaks to how owned the quarterback is. His skill position players won't be nearly as owned here. So I think, having Mark Andrews, having Marquise Brown, sure, it's fine. But you go down to Kansas City, it's only negative 2.3% leverage. But you brought it up. It's a 2-3 Kansas City team that's struggling. It hasn't been nearly as good, but their defense is also atrocious. And that can only help shoot out games. They're going to have to keep forcing the issue, keep pushing the issue in some of these games, because they just need to outscore people to win. And they've done that in years past, but they've still had a decent enough pass rush. They're not really getting to the quarterback in a meaningful way this season. So I'm looking at Kansas City to be in a lot of these shootouts. And so 20.3% quarterback ownership we have listed next to him there in the Top Stacks tool. And Travis Kelce is going to be somebody that is probably going to be extremely popular on every site. We don't know this Tyreek Hill news. I think, if I had to guess, you could flip a coin basically, but I think he's going to play. But in the event that he doesn't, everybody's going to want to stack him up with Tyreek or with Travis Kelce. Find ways to go to Hardman. Find ways to get to Demarcus Robinson even. So many ways and routes to be able to stack up Mahomes. He's going to be throwing the ball and airing it out a bunch, just in terms of stacking up your team and finding ways to get unique. Kansas City, I think, has more routes than what it is for Baltimore, because you're basically saying, I'm playing Lamar Jackson, I'm playing him with Andrews, I'm playing him with Brown, and I'm moving on with my day in some iteration of those three.
Again, there's no Josh Allen. He's in prime time. There's no Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady. They already went last night. So It's Lamar, it's Mahomes, and this other guy, Kyler Murray, who also happens to be pretty good at football. And he's got a good matchup with Cleveland on the other side, another game that I think you could look at as a realistic potential shootout. I don't know that Baker Mayfield is, a super attractive play for those of you out there looking to save a little bit of money. But Kyler Murray, with what he can do with the arm, with what he can do, obviously, on the legs, he's got some weapons there, as we well know. He is not going to have Zach Ertz available this weekend for anyone.
I was literally just about to ask you that, because I was like, can Zach Ertz just play in this?
Well, so I had, the news broke for anyone that missed it. Zach Ertz, after playing last night, has been traded to Arizona, to account for obviously the Max Williams situation. And, it was the first, I think I quote tweeted Rappaport or whoever tweeted it out. I said, play this weekend. And somebody was very quick to point out that, due to NFL rules and Players Association, the CBA and all that stuff, Ertz he's only allowed to play one game per week. He can't play. Now I would say that's, it's kind of true, right? It depends how you want to look at it, right? Like Sunday and Thursday, those could be considered in the same week, but I know they are technically not in the same week. It's like a week 7, week 8 kind of situation, whatever. You certainly can't play games 2 days apart that are both considered part of the same NFL week. So, boo-hoo for all of us that want to see Zach Ertz do the unthinkable. He's not available this weekend. That's a very long-winded way of telling you that.
I was just going to say, he could have been I'm trying to think of somebody had to have played at some point in time in the last 50, 60 years in the same week, whether was a different week, if it was like Sunday and then Thursday would count towards the week. But I was going to say, if you caught a touchdown pass in the same week for 2 different teams, that would be like one of the coolest things you could say. It's like a bar trivia question for life.
I'm saying, man.
It would have been historic. Awesome.
I want to know if he'd be up for it. If he were even allowed to, for all I know too, with even ignoring the CBA, like just with, COVID testing and, going from one team to the other and adhering to obviously like health and safety protocols, that type of thing. Maybe he couldn't even do it with the short turnaround, but I just want to know. And it'd be he should say it. Like Julie's husband should tell us the answers, a resounding yes, just because he didn't have a choice in the matter anyway. So at least sound like a tough guy. I want to know if Zach Ertz is up for the challenge.
Yeah, it would have been awesome. It would have been a lot of fun, but we're going to play Kyler Murray anyway. And it's just fine. Kyler Murray throws the football. He leads the league in completion percentage. I don't understand. Kyler Murray, this is not what we expected out of him. Lincoln Riley makes quarterbacks in Oklahoma, except for if their last name's Radler. But I absolutely think that this is definitely a spot where Kyler Murray just sticks out again for me as somebody who's going to be underutilized with how cheap Lamar Jackson is, with how, the upside that exists for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, the game environment for somebody like Joe Burrow, who has a number of pass receiving options. He's under $30. I think guys like Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray are just going to go way underrepresented. So at $40, he's a direct pivot. You're basically getting him for 1/18 of the ownership of Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to guess that Kyler Murray beats out Patrick Mahomes more than 1 out of every 18 times. That's just my guess. How about you?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. It's obviously, as we know, and this is kind of where we started, Lamar Jackson's the guy that you want to play. That's, the first and foremost, if you're just looking at building your lineup and the guys that you feel are the necessary inclusions, there's a reason the ownership projection is so high and that he's going to be in a third of lineups come Sunday. Lamar Jackson's the guy you're going to lean on. But if you are willing to pay up, if you want to pay that extra $7, go to the top of the slate, which I would not advocate people do just because you're already getting good value with Lamar. Why the heck would you? But if you're looking for differentiation or whatever else, yeah, I can absolutely, fall in line with what you're talking about and a good reason to play Kyler Murray in what projects to be a high scoring game.
Right. And for me, it's there. And then the other guy that we kind of want to talk about who kind of sits in between that entire range of Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford. We haven't seen the Rams here for a hot second. We saw them against Seattle. I believe that was a Thursday night game that they had for that. So it's been a while. People like to see the most recent thing that's happened. And I feel like Matthew Stafford is another guy. This team is just going to be airing it out. We're going to talk about the running back position. I kind of previewed it because a lot of the main injuries exist there. But Darrell Henderson is going to be extremely, extremely popular at $20 on Yahoo, going up against a Giants defense that can't contain the run, but they can't really contain the pass either. So I think he sets up really nicely as a guy that we can kind of go with Higbee, with Woods, and obviously Cooper Kupp and kind of combine some nice stacks that way. Matthew Stafford is just going to continue airing it out. 12 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the early going. He's looked electric with this Rams team, something that I didn't expect saying about Matthew Stafford at any point in his career, the word electric, but that's kind of what this Rams offensive passing attack is.
McNasty shouting you out in the chat. You're his second favorite host. Hopes you're doing well. McNasty, thanks for watching.
Who's number one?
It begs the question, doesn't it? I mean, is it Laffy? Is it Josh? I don't know. Dare I say, just because I'm here, could I be in the mix? Can I be part of it? You know,
you're my favorite.
McNasty, I'm having some real FOMO right here, man. I just want to be in the club. Let me in the club. All right, let's talk a little bit of the running backs. And if anyone has any questions about quarterbacks, we can always circle back. We're here with you for another half hour plus. So Najee Harris and Derrick Henry are both in prime time. So a couple of stud options are not available to you on the main slate. So goes back to what we were saying at the very beginning of the show, where you hopped on your soapbox and screamed, to the mountaintops. It's all about Kareem Hunt, folks. Kareem Hunt at 20 projected points, $19. That's it, with Nick Chubb ruled out. $19 for Hunt. Jump on into that party. Behind him, Austin Eckler, about 18 projected points. He's $33. So is Aaron Jones, who is about $16. I want to mention, by the way, we didn't talk about these guys, but I have it in my notes and I don't want to forget. The top value options at quarterback, by the way, Jacoby Brissett, he's always in the conversation, although he's a London game, so he's not in the main slate. But if you're thinking about it for, single game, obviously, Justin Fields, Lamar at 8.5x. But going back to these running backs, I know you're all in on Kareem Hunt. You should be all in on Kareem Hunt. People out there should be paying attention on all things Kareem Hunt with that Nick Chubb injury. But after Kareem Hunt, who do you really like?
So yeah, he's averaging 17 fantasy points per game on Yahoo. That's third best on the slate, and that's alongside Nick Chubb. So if you want to have some context for how good of a play Kareem Hunt is, there you go. He's going to be crazy high owned. I do not care. You need to have a ton of him in tournaments. You are locking him into cash games, getting that out of the way. For me, the next interesting portion of this entire program is that the highest priced players on the running back position are $33 because you're losing Christian McCaffrey. He got ruled out. Chuba Hubbard, we can obviously try to turn to him against a poor Minnesota defense here. They've played better of late, but they've also had Cleveland Browns where Baker Mayfield had a dinged up shoulder and couldn't target anybody, followed by the Detroit Lions. So I'm not reading too much into that. I think Hubbard's a decent enough play, but Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler at $33. I'm in love with Austin Eckler this week. Absolutely in love with him. I think that he sets up as a guy in tournaments where it's contrarian to pay up. We're talking about all these mid-level options, these $20 players, Darrell Henderson at $20, DeAndre Swift, and then Kareem Hunt at 19. They're going to absorb so much rostership at the position that I'm just kind of looking to pay up to be contrarian in some of these spots. And Austin Eckler is completely game script proof. 350 rushing yards, 195 receiving yards here on the season so far, 17 rush attempts, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a reception touchdown against Cleveland, 3 touchdowns. I mean, you're talking about a guy with unquestioned upside. And Aaron Jones on the other side, I'm probably a little bit lighter on. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. This A.J. Dillon thing is starting to freak me out. But Austin Eckler, for sure, at the top of the position. I want to get to a lot of him in tournaments where I just think he's going to go underrepresented by way of people paying up at the wide receiver position because they'll have value.
McNasty said Laffy, by the way, coming in at number 1. You're 2. I'm 3. You know what? I'm good with bronze. I don't even care if he's just saying that because I'm here. I'll take it. I'm in. Appreciate you, McNasty.
If you were, I'm trying to remember where it was. There was a golfer that won $2 million by winning a bronze medal. So you can make a lot of money being a bronze medalist, I must say.
That's right. Yeah. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride, but that's okay. Bridesmaids have a good time too. Want to remind you, we'll get back to the running backs in a second. We, of course, have 2 YouTube channels now, not just the one. 2 YouTube channels available that you can subscribe to, and we certainly encourage that you do so. If you love what we do for DFS, it's not just DFS, folks. We got sports betting talk available to you as well. Click on the links in the description of this video. Make sure you turn on those notifications so you can be alerted whenever our great live shows go live and available out there to you and the rest of the world. We're producing sports betting content, fantasy football content. We're doing it all around the clock, so make sure you stay up to date with videos from your favorite Awesemo hosts like Laffy, like Eric, and according to McNasty, like me. Let's go back to the running backs. And how do you feel about McKinnon. He's come up a couple of times in the chat here.
No, I mean, I get it. Darrell Williams, Jerick McKinnon. For me, I just don't think you're going to see enough snaps for him to really matter. Plus, I don't think the savings to Jerick McKinnon to $12 is really even that necessary. So the way the salary structure works out on Yahoo, I mean, it's going to be pretty simple for me to get the $2 to get to Herbert, to get, all the way up. I mean, the nice thing I can say is he will have absolutely no roster share. Nobody's going to be clicking on Jerick McKinnon in any capacity, no matter what. People picked him up in year-long stuff as a necessity. I know I had to in like 1 or 2 leagues, and I feel miserable about it, but I'm thinking that you're looking at about 35% of snaps. And there were a lot of passing situations last week, even where they just kind of relied on Darrell Williams. So I'm not completely gung-ho on Jerick McKinnon. I'd rather sit and wait. If you want to take some shots in super large field tournaments in one of your 20, one of your 10 lineups or whatever, sure, try to make that a thing. But I think it's just really, really unnecessary considering there is a ton, and I mean a ton of value, starting even with his teammate Darrell Williams at $17. Super easy to get up to that. I think it's a guaranteed workload there. You're going to see him get ground game work and 5 targets last game. I just don't know what Jerick McKinnon's workload looks like.
Your top Awesemo value in terms of the projections from our own Alex Baker, of course, Kareem Hunt, unsurprisingly, is at the top. He is north of 10x, folks. So again, a guy that you really want to feel strongly about locking in. Khalil Herbert, who you've talked quite a bit about, almost 9.5x, but he's not number 2. Coming in at silver between those two guys, Devontae Booker at almost 10x as well, 9.8. And I want to mention as well, before we talk about Booker, that at last look, I don't know if this has changed since this show went live, but when I was looking at just some of the numbers right before we came on, Christian McCaffrey was still in there projected to play. And of course, as we know, he is not going to. That will all get updated long before Sunday. So don't worry about that. But, don't go setting your lineups right now and locking yourself in and forgetting to tweak come Sunday, because things will change, in particular with that Carolina backfield with those projections. But what are you thinking with Booker?
So this is really a tough one for me. And I'm thinking about this a lot in a couple season long leagues where I have to choose between Herbert and Booker in a couple of them. That's a real fun decision point, something I totally expected for week 6. For DFS purposes here, the Rams are a really tough defense for me to get a feel for what they are right now. And I have to say, the one nice thing is that we do expect the Rams to be putting up points against the Giants. So on the other side, Booker is somebody who played all the snaps, basically. It was a one-man committee once you saw Saquon Barkley go down at the end of that first quarter. But going through the Rams box scores, you do have to have some context for who the opponents are. This is why you don't always want to just lump sum every single team together, because against Tampa Bay, which is obviously pass first, they held them to only 35 rushing yards there in a win that they had against Tampa Bay at home. But Tom Brady throwing the ball coming from behind, who would really expect for the Rams or for the Bucs to really run the ball in that spot? Seattle, their last time out here, in that win that they had up in Seattle, they were facing Alex Collins as an RB1. They held them to 92 yards there. But if you take the other 3 games that they played, 216, 109, and 134 rushing yards on the ground in those 3, that was against Chicago, Indianapolis, and Arizona. Arizona specifically, 216 rushing yards with the committee of James Conner and Chase Edmonds. That's really ridiculously bad. So I'm not sure really what to make of this entire Rams situation, but at $12, at $14 for some of these cheap guys, but Devontae Booker at $12, I think I'm willing to find out in large field tournaments. He's just a little bit rostered over the top for me, over 20%. That might be tough, but we'll see once this Kareem Hunt ownership gets updated, because once he gets to around 40, 50%, you're going to see some of these other backs take a hit. And if Booker falls into that teens range, he could be a really nice leverage play.
Our guy Steven in the chat says Jonathan Taylor versus the Texans is a nice spot and a Wentz stack. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, we just saw Carson Wentz. This is the recency bias thing with Carson Wentz, right? Like we're just seeing what he did against Baltimore, and now he's facing Houston, which for all intents and purposes is a hot dumpster fire of garbage and sadness. So Carson Wentz definitely would make some sense as somebody who we just saw him throw over 400 yards. Looked really competent for the first time all season long. I have no idea how the Colts lost that game with as well as Jonathan Taylor was running it and as well as Carson Wentz was playing. Just fluky ridiculousness. And also Lamar Jackson's a god. So there's that. But Carson Wentz, he's going to definitely come in underappreciated. For me, it's just tough to really target that entire game environment with anybody besides Jonathan Taylor. I don't really see Houston having anybody. We've just seen it routinely now here. I mean, Mills finally looked competent there, but even then, the main run back was Brandon Cooks, and that's going to be the main run back here again. For me, I would just rather capture the upside of the game with Jonathan Taylor. I don't think I would try to get too cute. Maybe a share or two of Pittman in large field stuff.
Well, you mentioned Pittman. Why don't we make the move to wide receivers? Michael Pittman is considered one of the top value guys, by the way, in addition to Robbie Anderson, who we talk about every single week in that category. Chris Conley as well. All these guys are right in the neighborhood of 8X, but they are not the top projected plays. How about Davante Adams? No shocker there. He is projected for 18 points. He is $37, so obviously he is pricey. Tyreek Hill, talking about a potential stack there with Kansas City, always on the table for you. He is about 16 projected points, $38, and in that same vicinity as well, 36. Cooper Kupp coming in at about 16 projected points. So among that trio, who do you feel best about?
Davante Adams. That's going to be the most popular play, and I don't really care. Davante Adams coming off of 3 consecutive double-digit target games here, 16 and 18 targets amongst them, and 2 of them. Aaron Rodgers, a guy that he's in the boom bust tool, which we don't have necessarily for Yahoo for stuff, but looking just in full context of how good a play is. I mean, Davante Adams absorbs all of this offense. I mean, he does everything for them here. You have Aaron Jones, who's dinged up as well. I mean, they have some glorified running plays for Davante Adams where they just throw it out to the wing and they block with 3 wide receivers and they just say, hey, run that way. And he does it because it's just the most consistent player week in, week out, highest floor, highest upside. I feel the best about him. I think for tournaments, the guy that I really am waiting to see, I mean, Tyreek Hill, I don't know if he's going to play or not. And I was talking about that a little bit beforehand. That's something to keep track of. It obviously affects a ton of what we're going to be doing at the tight end position as well, because Kelsey will be out of this world owned in the event that Tyreek Hill sits. But in the event that he goes, he's got the Q tag next to him. Davante Adams and Cooper Kupp, I mean, they've definitely put it up. Tyreek Hill basically has had one massive game in the last 4, and it just stands out with that ridiculous outing against Philadelphia. But I mean, Tyreek Hill, at $38, he can eviscerate anybody so long as he is on the field, so long as he is active. I think being overweight to whatever number he ends up at is probably the right move. And Patrick Mahomes too. I mean, if you want to get different, play him with Hill instead of Kelsey, and you're probably in the driver's seat at being different.
Even if Hill does play though, because, obviously you've kind of gone back and forth on whether or not, what degree of health, he actually has going into this one. If he does play, which, I know you can make the argument, well, if he's good enough to play in real life, he's good enough to play in fantasy, but just knowing that he's banged up enough for it to even be a consideration, is he someone that you're more inclined to, I don't know, stay away from, not outright fade, like maybe you still want some exposure to him, but, fade him in some of your, I don't know, more important lineups, more important contests, however you want to look at it, and go with a Travis Kelsey because he's more of a quote unquote sure thing or high floor or however you want to term it.
No risk it, no biscuit, baby. I mean, that's a little bit of what we got to be looking at for some of these tournaments. I mean, what's your risk tolerance? Obviously, what size field are you in? If you're playing in the $1 million baller, which you should be, there's 150K of overlay. That's negative 17.6% management fee that's currently in that tournament. It's going to fill more than likely, but there's guaranteed money they're putting back in your pocket. Playing in something like that with 42,500 entries, give me Tyreek Hill for sure. And we have Dave there in the premium football Slack. He just hit me up. He said, they said Tyreek Hill was back at practice and looked normal. That's fantastic. That's great to hear. I didn't see any word on that. I would assume that, he would need to practice today. If he didn't practice today, I would be very, very worried about his status for Sunday. Not saying that he wouldn't possibly be able to be out there. I mean, he's been with this team forever. It's not like he needs to go through the playbook over and over, but it's definitely nice to see that he is on the field for that. But you got to be willing to, in some of these spots, and I did this with Dalvin Cook 2 weeks ago. It obviously worked out very, very poorly, but I got Dalvin Cook at like 1.2%. And it's a ridiculous number to get on a guy who, in the event that he gets 70% plus of snaps, you could be looking at Yahtzee. And that's really what it is finding these spots where, in the event that they are okay, you're ready to go. And you got to be attuned to news. You got to be tuning into Live Before Lock, seeing kind of what the analysis is on that stuff leading into it. But so long as he's on the field, I mean, this is Tyreek Hill we're talking about. And We can't worry about too many injuries. I mean, stuff like Saquon Barkley happens all the time, like we had last week. We had so many injuries that just pop up. We can't be overly concerned with trying to protect everybody on our teams.
Couple questions we have in the chat relating to other positions, and I don't know, injuries top of mind. Our guy McNasty again. If Hunt doesn't play, because again, technically he is questionable. If Hunt does not play with Nick Chubb out, makes life interesting. You have Dearness Johnson and Demetric Felton. If I'm even, I don't know if I'm even saying his name right. How do we feel about those guys, or is it just and I know super cheap? Like obviously you're talking about min-price guys you'd be looking to get exposure to, but is it a guessing game as to who the lead back would be?
I mean, I think Felton's been like the pass catching back. He's been out there for some pass catching work. Dearness Johnson would be the guy I think you would see end up getting the bulk end of the carries. Felton for the season doesn't have a carry, because I went through this backfield trying to figure out if there was an RB2 possibility for season long for DFS purposes. I don't really see it. I mean, for me, I think Hunt is going to be good to go. Yeah, he's listed questionable, but he practiced today. I think that's just really boding well. And with them ruling out Chubb really early here, I think that just bodes well for it to be 100%. Not 100%, because, you'll definitely see some guys mix in. I think if you had to take a shot on either of them, even with the existence of Hunt, there's one guy I would want to take. I would probably go to the Felton route, just because I think, there is some passing game upside here against Arizona. Arizona being the lone undefeated team left. The Cleveland's 3.5-point favorites, though, in this spot. I just think Hunt will be a guy who's given a bulk end of the carries, and maybe Felton mixes in for passing downs here. But Dearness Johnson, I think, would generally be, if you got Hunt ruled out, the guy you would want more of, just because he would get all the rushing volume.
Travis says, could Mayfield be in the optimal if he puts up a game like he did against the Chargers?
I mean, he's somebody who's garnering a little bit of attention. I mean, right now, what do we have him at? 7.6%. He's the third or fourth? Yeah, number 4 on the board behind Heineke, Mahomes, and Jackson. So, I mean, it's not like he's going underappreciated. He's $20 on Yahoo. So if you're going to play him anywhere, I think it makes the most sense to play him on Yahoo. My big issue with him, if you're not going to stack him up with Odell, I mean, I want to say it's not point chasing going to Njoku, because I definitely like him this week, but 7 targets, 7 catches, 149 and a touchdown. We're not expecting that out of him. It's just so hard for me to find ways to pair up Baker Mayfield with anybody not named Odell Beckham. So I don't know how to get different with that stack. And so for me, that's a little bit of my considerations too, is maybe I can get very, very different at other positions, but I don't want to necessarily play the chalky. I mean, fourth on the board here. I don't want to play a chalky Baker Mayfield in a spot where I'm playing him with a chalky Odell Beckham. That's just kind of a pass for me.
Who do you think is going to do better between he and Heineke, just because you mentioned those two guys in similar positioning?
I mean, I love Heineke, and plus Heineke does stuff with his legs that Baker Mayfield just has chosen not to, whether he can or not. I'm not really sure, but Taylor Heineke, until last week, where he was no doubt garbage. I mean, and New Orleans is going to make a lot of people garbage. I think one thing that I'm starting to tune into a little bit, Terry McLaurin, when he gets in some of these really tough one-on-one matchups, Marshawn Lattimore absolutely ate him up last week, made Taylor Heineke very inefficient. The pass rush was getting there. You saw Heineke complete less than 50% of his passes. He was 20 for 41. He was kind of getting rushed around. He still had 40 rushing yards. So his floor, I mean, it was an abysmal game, but there's still going to be some rushing volume there. I definitely like Heineke more, especially because if we expect Kansas City to put up points on the other side, they're going to be in come from behind mode. And Heineke is somebody that can just he's proven he can make plays. He's got an easy number 1 to pair with. I do like the Heineke route. I just also like Terry McLaurin more than I like Odell Beckham. So I think maybe I'm a little bit biased in that regard too.
Tell you what, gang, 25 is my favorite number, so it's nice to see 25 likes on this stream right now. That being said, we have considerably more than that watching, so hit the like and hit the subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it, obviously, and do remember, subscribe to both the Yahoo, the YouTube channels for Awesemo that are available to you for both fantasy talk and sports betting talk. It's all out there for you. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button. Alerts will be sent your way when shows go live. So be sure to check out, in this case, today's free premium tools and data, which are NFL Week 6 top stacks, and MMA fighter rankings are out there available to you as well. Why don't we make the move to tight ends? We've got about 15 minutes left in this show. Travis Kelce, he is very much the chalk. We've talked about him a few times already. He is expensive, as you would expect, $30. He is about 15 projected points, according to our own Alex Baker. Darren Waller right behind, who has not been the Waller we got in week 1 ever since, but always an opportunity for him to hopefully rediscover himself a little bit. $24, about 14 projected points. Mark Andrews, $11, $21. Those are your top 3. Those are the studs. Those are guys we've spent a lot of time talking about all year long. Who's the big performer?
Oh God. I mean, I can't take the chalk, right? I can't just say, hey, Travis Kelce's a really good play this week, and then we can go home. What was that?
Seems a little too easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. See, that would be very, very egregious of me, but that's also kind of the way you have to look at this. And it'll be very dependent upon what happens here with Tyreek Hill. But Travis Kelce being 15% less than Mark Andrews, I'm just saying, and I'm just throwing it out there, that if that Monday night game had never happened, the chances of Mark Andrews being higher rostered than Travis Kelce is legitimately 0%. Like legitimately 0%. So we have to have a little bit of an idea of what recency bias looks at. Baltimore still runs at the number 1 pace in adjusted pace metrics that we have at Awesemo. That's on the NFL Advanced Stats game script adjusted rush percentage. Man, that's a mouthful. But basically saying Baltimore is going to premierly run the ball. That ownership right now, if you are just light on Mark Andrews, which I 100% plan to be at 35.8%, just flip-flop that with Kelce. Get to 35% Kelce, because we are looking at a world where the Kansas City Chiefs need to win football games. And if they're going to win football games, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be Travis Kelce, and it's going to be Tyreek Hill. So we're going to target a ton of Travis Kelce. Ricky Seals-Jones as well in that same exact game. I mean, I was expecting him to kind of he's been running a lot of routes here. He got 8 targets last time out. That's another guy I guess you could pair with Heineke as well. But at the top end of this position, I just don't see how I'm going to get anywhere close to 35.8% of Mark Andrews, regardless of how good he looked last week.
Your value at the tight end position are Ricky Seals-Jones, who comes in about 7.5x, Noah Fant at 6x, which I think is interesting. Obviously, these are 2 totally different types of players, price points, all of that. Noah Fant is increasingly week by week turned into a very good play. Shouldn't shock you that he comes recommended, but the fact that he is also near the top when it comes to value, not Kelce, not Waller, not Andrews, and so on. It is Noah Fant. How do you feel about him going into this weekend?
I think he's all right. For me, it's just tough at any spot that isn't Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller. Like there's so much upside with those 3, but basically we haven't seen all 3 of them other than this Monday night game for Mark Andrews. Like the 3 of them have not broken a position yet on a main slate here. And you're looking at some of these punts taking off. It's not like the running back position or wide receiver position where you have 25, 30 players that can just add them. You can absolutely make a case for it. And you're going to see multiple pieces of them go off. It's just kind of being able to mix and match the pieces correctly together. At the tight end position, if you're looking at Andrews and Kelce failing, that's really where you're looking at a guy like Noah Fant, who can see double-digit target volume here. My big thing is that Sutton ended up being back last week, and that definitely cut into the role of somebody like Noah Fant immediately. I would prefer to have even him out there, but it's just going to be tough for me to want to prioritize a guy like that. Can you play him in tournaments? Yeah, you can play absolutely anybody in tournaments, but $17, I would rather go down to, and I brought him up, and it sounds point chasey, but David Njoku is actually the 4th ranked tight end amongst PFF tight ends. So we're looking at a guy that, sure, yeah, he went off 7 catches, 149 yards and a touchdown, 1 broken play, I guess, that really got him there. But if you're going to be looking for some value, $14 going up against Arizona, which in years past has been a little bit of a pass funnel pre-Kingsbury. I don't really think that that's something I'm going to read into too much, but I am going to read into the fact that there is no number 1 wide receiver out there. Odell has not played up to standard here. Jarvis Landry's still in IR. There's going to be some passing volume there. And now you take Nick Chubb off the field. I think Njoku is somebody that's going to start getting steamed as we get going here closer to lock. And I definitely like him. And I would be absolutely floored if he was under 1%, which we currently have him for.
Steven said Schultz bargain at $15. Interesting, case to be made for Dalton Schultz for sure. I mean, he has been fantasy relevant for the last few weeks for Dallas, a team that's won 4 straight. He's, in New England now against a Patriots defense that has been very inconsistent. Obviously, a secondary that has question marks. Schultz is, he's regularly getting 6 to 8 targets. He's certainly a touchdown threat as well. How are you feeling about him at half the price of Travis Kelce?
I'm all right with it. I mean, he's definitely somebody that you have Dak Prescott throwing him the football. That helps. You're seeing him get consistent target volume, which is kind of, for me at the tight end position, something that I like to prioritize. We have 7+ targets in 3 straight, 8 in his last 2. That looks pretty decent. And at the tight end position, you don't need a whole lot to get there. What you're trying to do is you're trying to pluck some touchdowns here at the bottom end. And at $15, I mean, he's $1 more than Njoku, who I just made a case for. He's $1 less than Higbee for, going up against a Giants team, which just hemorrhages a production to the tight end position. I like Higbee. I like Njoku, but Dalton Schultz, I mean, he's been the more explosive player amongst everybody here. He's 3rd in fantasy points per game at the tight end position on this slate. He's averaging more fantasy points than Darren Waller. So if you want some context there, that's a pretty good spot. Even on the road against New England, I think you can definitely fire up some.
I was going to ask you about Hunter Henry on the other side, but, just because he's been good the last couple of games, last week in particular, but he's the same price. He's $15. And if you're looking for a guy who's, I don't know if the ceiling is necessarily higher, but the floor definitely is, it would be Dalton Schultz.
New England's shown no apprehension to air it out. Like, they're giving Mac Jones the opportunity to grow. They're rebuilding. They're trying to make him Tom Brady. He's not Tom Brady. I don't think he ever will be. Brady. But he's great. He's a really good young quarterback. I feel more bullish on him than anybody that New England's had come through there. I mean, Cam Newton, I don't know what in the world. It's a tough thing for Cam Newton, who had so much wear and tear on his body. And I thought that was just kind of a tough spot, considering there were really no strong position players. And Jacoby Myers is really kind of it there too. Nelson Aguilar was decent enough with Vegas last year, but I'm not super bullish on this team. And I don't think anybody is, but the one nice thing is I think they're going to give Mac Jones the opportunity to grow. And so with that, you're just looking at some possible receiving volume. They're not necessarily prioritizing the run. Ramondre Stevenson did get in the mix there, but I see them definitely wanting to air it out. So Hunter Henry against Dallas in a game they should be trailing. They'll try to slow it down, I'm sure, but Hunter Henry doesn't need a deep ADOT or anything like that. He'll be able to get enough target volumes to be relevant. He's had 2 touchdown catches in the last 2. I think just being a little bit of a red zone target is never a bad thing out of your tight end either. So Hunter Henry, I'm all right having shares of him too. I mean, it's kind of a scatter shot. Once I take Mark Andrews off my board, I have 35% that I can kind of attribute to other positions if I'm making 150 lineups. So I kind of think about it that way, where I'm fine kind of plastering the board underneath $20.
DSTs, my friend. Steelers are primetime team this week, and they are certainly in one of the better positions. But main slate, your top plays, Colts. Yes, Carson Wentz, Colts, albeit on the other side of the ball. About 9 projected points, almost $19 though. Very expensive in the world of DSTs. You got the Packers at $13. So are the Rams. They are both projected for about 8 points. Is this a pay down spot for you?
It's going to be a not play the Rams, not play the Chiefs spot for me. The Rams
very chalky. I said a quarter of lineups in terms of ownership.
So I don't want to bring up other sites, but this is the one thing that I just wanted to bring up for how absurd defense is and why we should have a flex spot. And this is probably a whole nother rant, but the Rams on DK, I'm just going to say DK because I want to give it for some context.
There's just 2 letters in the alphabet you like.
Yeah. So the D plus the K.
Yeah.
The Rams are at a salary that's absurd, $4,700. The next one on the board is $3,900. You have a 2K floor there. On Yahoo, $13 for the Rams with a salary floor of $10. I mean, the Rams are going to be infinity % owned. You are fading the Rams in tournaments. That's just what you're doing. Okay. The Rams and the Chiefs, I guess, too, against Washington, even though Heineke is getting some ownership and getting some steam as we're getting closer to Sunday. The Chiefs at $10 are going to garner some attention because everybody's looking for that cheap defense that kind of stands out. And coming off of the worst game of Heineke's career, in his brief tenure here at Washington, you're looking at the Chiefs being a team that's going to be popular as well. But the Rams are going to be 30% plus. It's just going to happen because you're going to be able to get your exposure to that defense over there. But the problem is that's still a roster spot. Defense is still a roster spot. No discrimination here, Squirrel. That's an Outcast quote for everybody there. But Rams, $13 makes no sense whatsoever. It is wrong. It is bad, but you need to avoid it in tournaments. I'm going to be plastering the board. And similar to the tight end position where it's just fade Mark Andrews, move on with your day. I'm going to fade the Rams pretty God that Daniel Jones can be healthy and put up some kind of scoring to neutralize it. And I'm going to go everywhere else.
The top value spots, Chiefs 6.5x, Packers 6.1. We were just talking Green Bay. How are the Chiefs at 6.5x? I know Washington's Washington, but by the same token, I mean, I guess you're just banking on turnovers because I think there are going to be a lot of points in that game.
I do too. But that's what it is that you go down there. I mean, do you want to play Washington football team against Kansas City? At $10?
No.
Yeah. Do you want to play the Detroit Lions at $10?
I mean, our Tyler wants to. Our producer Tyler, he's all in.
God,
he just wants chaos. That's what it is.
I love.
I don't want to play anything that has Detroit in the name.
Want to see how I got these
most
scars?
Weeks for that matter.
My father was a drinker. There it is. That's all. I'm just going to keep going.
Please, is Heath here? Heath?
I'm a little bit of that. That's all I hear is like the mouth cackling, whatever. But yeah, the $10 range, everybody's looking for that cheap punt defense. And I think at the $10 range, they're definitely the team that stands out. The Chiefs are, but that's why you don't play them. That's why you not to pay up to be contrarian. You don't have to play the Cowboys against New England for $21 where they're 0.1% or the Cardinals against Cleveland for 0.1%. I mean, those are just kind of egregious tags. I don't know where those kind of came from, but starting with the Colts against Houston, 17.8%. I would be shocked if they got up to be that expensive or if they got to be that owned. 17.8% is a large number. I just know, just the way that people have been jamming in defenses, that it's going to be playing the Rams and moving on with your day. And maybe the Rams do hold them to 0 points or 7 points. And, they end up being a team that, we're going to just neutralize defense. We can just play them and move on. I would rather take my shots trying to find the one defense that has a pick six, hope the Giants get at least a touchdown or two to neutralize that number. And you could jump, 6, 8, 10 points way over top of the field immediately. I think it's just a better way to go long-term.
So we've got only another minute or so before we get out of here, and want to remind you, obviously, our partnership with Yahoo, the opportunity for you to potentially get involved here. You got to be a new Yahoo user, but join in. You can get up to 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you start playing, of course, if you are a new Yahoo user. And give us a like, hit the subscribe button, all those good things that I like to remind you of. But our optimal lineup, as things stand right now, with Alex's projections, again, your top plays, Lamar Jackson, Khalil Herbert as well, the Rams DST that, as Eric said, is going to be, I believe the quote was, infinity owned coming up this weekend, which means correct, for your other half dozen spots, you've got some lower owned guys. Now, some guys we've talked about. I'm not going to rattle down the whole lineup for you because obviously I want you to subscribe and check this stuff out for yourself as well. But Devontae Adams, Kareem Hunt, it won't surprise you that they are in the mix. Are there any, as we prepare to get out of here, are there any plays, whatever the position, that we've not really talked about here over the last hour that you're particularly intrigued by?
Ooh, man. What a fun question. This is like a pick'em. This is like when you kind of are, when the teacher says, hey, write a paper about anything. And then you can't figure it up. Like you can't figure out what you want to write about.
This is your chance to call your shot before we leave.
Okay. So I've called my shot. I feel like I've done pretty well calling my shot. You said my Millie Maker winner the other week, Terry McLaurin 2 weeks ago, man, he won somebody $1 million. So that was nifty. I think I got one guy at the wide receiver position. I've got one guy, and we're just going to throw it out there because I'm in love with this guy. I'm an absolute mark for him. It's part of why I wasn't about Noah fan. I think Cortland Sutton going up against this Vegas Raiders team, which I don't know if you've heard, they've got some stuff going on. So the Vegas Raiders
is some
going
internal turmoil, you might say.
Yeah, slightly. Some bad things are happening. Some people said some things and it was bad. So Cortland Sutton, $20 on the board. I don't think he's going to garner a ton of attention here. I'm going over to our projections right now. $20 for Cortland Sutton. He's under 10%. I feel like that's a guy you definitely want to be overweight to. He's proven to be the number one there. There's a lot of receiving volume that's kind of dissipated due to injury there at the wide receiver position. Jerry Jeudy's on IR. KJ Hamler's on IR. There's Tim Patrick, who's the number 2 there. Give me all the Cortland Sutton in the world in this spot going up against Vegas. I think they just absolutely trounce them. It's weird to recommend a guy in a 43 total game, but I'm just telling you right ahead of time, that guy goes for 20 plus on Yahoo.
Some have asked what is coming up next over the course of the day. You got the Prize Picks college football show, starts in about 5 minutes. You will have college football live before lock. Ben and the crew, 6:30. That's coming your way in about 2.5 hours. There is somebody asked an NHL strategy show tomorrow morning. There is not one tonight. It's a very light slate tonight, but you do have one tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. That will be the first of a whole lot of Awesemo content coming your way on a Saturday. So do make sure you check that out. We see you in there, Jimmy. But thank you all for hanging out. Yeah, Jordan's coming up next in just a few minutes. He's hanging out with us in the chat, hopefully promoting his program and just chilling, enjoying a little bit of Yahoo football talk. So thanks to Tyler for keeping us in check. And of course, my guy right here, Eric, I am Adam. Enjoy the weekend, man. I'm going to be paying attention. I want to see if these picks come through for you.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping they come through for everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Always a blast to hang out with you on Friday. I always look forward to the show because, again, how many times do you get to work with an actual professional at Awesemo.com?
Yes, who talks to
the third best host on Awesemo.com.
That's right. I'm going to put that in my bio right now on Twitter. All right. We'll see you guys a little bit later on. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the weekend.